AI, um, it feels like it's everywhere these days, right? Like every time I turn around,
Yeah.
there's some new breakthrough or a new application or,
Right.
everyone's talking about AI.
Absolutely.
But are we really getting the full story? I mean, are we really looking beyond all the hype? Today, we are diving into AI, the illusion of progress, the reality of control from social climate tech news.
Okay.
And this piece, honestly, it offers a perspective that might make you think a little bit differently about all those shiny AI promises,
Yeah, interesting.
So if you're ready to go beyond just the hype and really understand what's going on with AI, this is the place to be.
All right. Sounds good.
We're going to try to unpack some of the potential downsides and hidden costs that don't always, make it to the front page news.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating how the article really cuts through all the noise. We're constantly being told how AI is going to revolutionize
Yeah.
everything. But it's refreshing to see a piece that actually shines a light on the less glamorous side,
Hmm.
the trade-offs and the unintended consequences that we don't always think about.
Exactly. And, one of those things that we don't always think about is the environmental impact.
Oh, yeah.
Did you know that AI is such a massive energy and water guzzler?
It's ironic, isn't it? We have all these companies talking about, green initiatives and sustainability.
Right.
But at the same time, they're pouring money into this technology that requires massive amounts of energy to train its models.
Yeah.
And let's not forget about the water needed to cool those data centers. I mean, it's just an unbelievable amount.
It's true. It's like we think of AI as this kind of virtual thing,
Yeah.
like it's all happening in the cloud,
Right.
but there's this huge physical footprint behind it.
There is.
It really makes you think, like, have you ever considered the environmental cost of your own AI interactions, just in your everyday life?
Yeah, that's such a crucial question to ask because it ties into this bigger issue of sustainability. And, in a world where we're facing increasing resource scarcity,
Hmm.
can we really afford to be developing technology that puts such a strain on our planet?
That's a really good point.
Mm.
And what's interesting is that the article draws a parallel between the current AI craze and other tech trends we've seen in the past.
Yeah.
Remember the iPhone obsession or the
Yeah.
blockchain craze or the crypto bubble?
Oh, for sure.
They were all fueled by hype, you know, and the sense of oh, I'm going to miss out.
Fear of missing out. Yeah.
And let's face it, some pretty clever market manipulation going on there too.
Absolutely. And they all seem to follow this same kind of pattern, right? You
Yeah.
create this excitement and buzz around the technology,
Yeah.
and it almost becomes like a tribe-like mentality,
Yes.
this feeling of being part of this exclusive group of early adopters.
Right.
And Apple is really good at this. They use these carefully crafted advertising campaigns and this exclusive language,
Yeah.
and they're constantly reinforcing this idea that if you use their products, you're part of something special.
Right. Join the revolution. Be part of the future.
Exactly.
But in all that excitement, sometimes critical thinking gets lost.
Oh, for sure.
We get so caught up in being part of the in crowd
Right.
that we don't stop to ask, what are the implications? What are the potential downsides?
Yeah. And that massive energy footprint we were talking about earlier, it often gets hidden behind that same slick marketing and hype that surrounds AI.
It's true. It's like they're really good at making us forget about the less glamorous side of things.
Exactly. And that's where the danger lies, because when critical thinking takes a back seat,
Right.
it becomes much easier for companies to push boundaries and prioritize profits over, genuine societal benefit.
Yeah. And speaking of profit,
Yeah.
the article makes a pretty bold claim.
Okay.
It says that for many in the financial sector, AI isn't really about progress. It's about control.
Interesting.
So that raises some pretty serious questions about the motivations behind this big AI push. What do you say?
For sure. The authors are arguing that a lot of the push for AI-driven solutions isn't actually about creating a better society.
Right.
It's about consolidating power and maintaining control.
Mm.
Big corporations and financial institutions are pouring money into AI, not necessarily because they want to see technological advancement for the sake of progress,
Mm-hmm.
but because they want to stifle competition and secure their position at the top.
I see. And they even quote the article directly. It says, for the financial sector and major corporations, AI isn't about creating a better society or advancing technology for its own sake. It's about control.
Wow.
So think about industries that are dominated by just a few giant players.
Okay.
How did they get there? Often it's by pushing out smaller competitors, limiting choices, and basically controlling the market.
Yeah.
And AI, with its ability to automate and optimize, can be a very powerful tool for achieving that kind of control.
And what happens when these AI-driven monopolies become too big to fail?
Right. History has shown us that these bubbles eventually burst,
They-
and they leave a trail of devastation in their wake.
Yeah, and it's often everyday people who end up paying the price.
Exactly. Jobs are lost, choices are limited,
Mm-hmm.
and we're often left with services that are just not as good as they could be because quality and innovation have been sacrificed in the name of efficiency and profit.
That's a good point. The article goes even further and claims that this AI push is actually an attack on meritocracy and a truly free market.
Wow, so how do they explain that?
Well, the concern is that we're shifting away from a system where success is based on merit, based on the quality of your work and the value you bring.
Yeah.
And we're moving towards a system that prioritizes what they call brute force efficiency.
Brute force efficiency, so what does that mean?
It basically means favoring speed and volume over nuanced quality.
Okay.
AI can generate content and services at an unprecedented scale.
Wow.
Does it match human ingenuity and quality? That's the question.
That's a great question.
Hmm.
And they use the example of AI replacing journalists, developers, and customer service agents.
Oh, yeah.
Sure, AI bots can crank out content and respond to basic queries, but often the quality just isn't there. It's not about depth insight or genuine understanding.
Right.
It's about churning out as much as possible, as quickly as possible. So maybe one day this entire podcast will be hosted by bots,
Who knows?
though I doubt they'll be able to crack jokes as bad as mine.
That's true. That's true.
But seriously, this flood of AI-generated content can drown out genuine talent and innovation.
Yeah, it's a real concern.
We risk creating a situation where quality takes a backseat to quantity and where the human element with all its nuance and creativity gets lost in the shuffle.
Absolutely.
Right.
It's something we need to be very mindful of.
Yeah, it kind of paints a pretty bleak picture, doesn't it? This
Yeah.
future where originality and genuine skill are just overshadowed by this wave of AI-generated content.
It's definitely a concerning prospect.
Yeah, and it all comes down to, like, what are we really valuing as a society? You know? Do we want a world where everything is just optimized for efficiency and controlled by a few powerful entities? Even if it means, like, sacrificing quality and diversity of thought and human connection, those are some pretty big trade-offs.
They are. And it brings us to another really crucial point that the article highlights, which is the human cost.
Oh, yeah, the human cost. So what do they say about that?
Well, they argue that while all this money and attention is being poured into AI development, other essential sectors like healthcare, education, and social services are being neglected.
Oh, wow. So it's like we're putting all our eggs in one basket and hoping for the best.
In a way. Yeah, and I think it's easy to get caught up in the excitement of new technology, right? The allure of progress. But we don't always stop to think about the potential trade-offs. And in the case of AI, those trade-offs could be pretty significant.
Yeah, like what if we end up with this super advanced AI,
Yeah.
but our healthcare system is falling apart? Our education system is failing our kids, and our social safety net is in tatters.
Right, that's the potential downside of prioritizing technological advancement over human well-being.
It's a scary thought. It makes you wonder, are we heading towards a future where technology just reigns supreme, even if it's at the expense of human needs and essential services?
It's a valid question, and the article doesn't shy away from these tough questions. In fact, I think that's the point.
Yeah.
It's not about being pessimistic. It's about raising awareness, prompting critical thinking, making sure we're really considering the potential downsides of AI, not just focusing on the shiny promises.
So it's not about, like, rejecting AI altogether.
No, not at all.
It's about approaching it with a more, like, balanced perspective, right?
Exactly. Recognizing both its potential benefits and its potential risks.
Yeah. And being aware of the possible negative consequences.
For sure. We need to be active participants in shaping the future of AI, not just passive consumers.
Okay, so what does that look like? Like, how do we actually do that?
Well, I think it starts with asking tough questions, demanding transparency from the companies that are developing and deploying AI, and making sure that its development aligns with our values and goals as a society.
So it's not just about, like, the technology itself.
Right.
It's about the values and the intentions behind it.
Exactly. The authors actually end the article with a very powerful statement.
Oh, what do they say?
They say, this AI push isn't a revolution, it's a warning.
Wow, a warning. That's pretty intense.
It is. And I think it's a really important message, We need to be cautious about blindly embracing any new technology, especially one as potentially transformative as AI.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So where do we go from here? Like, how do we navigate this complex landscape and try to make sure that AI is used for good,
Mhm.
not for control or exploitation?
Well, I think education is key. We need to understand how AI works, what it can and can't do,
Right.
and the potential impact it can have on our lives, our jobs, our communities.
So we need to be informed citizens.
Yes, informed and critical thinkers who can cut through the hype and make informed decisions about the technologies that we're embracing.
Okay, and it goes beyond just individual awareness,
hmm
right?
Absolutely. It requires collective action. We need to demand greater transparency and accountability from the companies developing AI.
Mm.
We need to advocate for regulations and policies that protect our interests and ensure that AI is being used ethically and responsibly.
I mean, that sounds great in theory, but it also feels kind of daunting.
Understood.
Like, what can one person really do in the face of these huge technological shifts?
I hear you. But I really believe that individual actions, even seemingly small ones, can have a ripple effect.
Okay, so what kind of actions are we talking about? Like, give me some examples.
Sure. Start by educating yourself about AI, its benefits and its risks. Talk about it with your friends, your family, your colleagues.
Mm.
Support organizations that are working to promote responsible AI development.
Okay.
And most importantly, don't be afraid to speak up and share your concerns.
So it's about, like, using our voices and making our choices heard?
Exactly. We can all play a part in shaping a future where AI is used for good, where it enhances our lives without undermining our values or, making existing inequalities worse.
Right, it's not about letting technology dictate our future.
No, it's about us taking control and shaping it in a way that benefits everyone.
Wow. It feels like we could talk about this for hours.
I know, right?
But unfortunately, we are running out of time for today's deep dive.
Yeah, there's so much more to explore.
There is. But I feel like we've at least touched on some of the key points from the article.
Yeah, definitely. And as you said, it's really a call to action.
It is. It is. So any final thoughts you want to leave our listeners with before we wrap things up?
Yeah, I think it's important to remember that even though the article presents kind of a critical and maybe even alarming perspective on AI, it's not the whole story.
Right.
AI does have incredible potential to do a lot of good in the world.
Yeah.
Like solve complex problems, improve our lives in countless ways.
For sure.
The challenge is to make sure that its development and how it gets used.
We're guided by ethical considerations, by a genuine desire to benefit humanity.
Yeah.
And by a commitment to transparency and accountability.
I think that's a great point. It's not about demonizing AI or rejecting it altogether.
Well,
it's about being aware of the potential pitfalls, asking those tough questions, and demanding better from the companies and institutions that are shaping this technology.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's where you, the listener, come in.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, your awareness, your engagement, your willingness to think critically about these issues, those are the things that will ultimately shape the future of AI.
It can feel overwhelming, though, right? Like, what can one person really do?
I understand that. But honestly, don't underestimate the power of your voice and your choices.
Okay, so, what can we do? Give us some practical steps.
Well, first, educate yourself about AI. Learn about its potential benefits and its risks. Talk about it with your friends, your family, your colleagues.
Okay.
Support organizations that are working to promote responsible AI development.
Yeah.
And most importantly, don't be afraid to speak up and share your concerns.
So it's about using our voices and making sure our choices are heard.
Exactly.
We can all play a part in shaping a future where AI is used for good, where it enhances our lives
Right.
without undermining our values or making existing inequalities worse.
Right. It's not about letting technology control us.
Yeah.
It's about us taking control and shaping it in a way that benefits everyone.
Well said.
Right.
Well said. This deep dive has definitely given me a lot to think about, and I hope it's done the same for you listening out there. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of new technology,
Yeah.
but it's important to remember that technology is a tool.
That's right.
And like any tool, it can be used for good or for bad.
It's true.
It all comes down to us, We get to decide how we want to use it.
So as we wrap up today, we want to leave you with one final thought-provoking question. What role will you play in shaping the future of AI? What kind of world do you want to see emerge from this technological revolution? The choices we make today will determine the world we inherit tomorrow.
That's right.
So let's choose wisely. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of AI.
It's been a pleasure.
And until next time, keep those critical thinking caps on